Well, hello there. Welcome to our first video of Through the Lens of. In our efforts to celebrate our diversity here at ThoughtWorks, we will be talking about our experiences in the world around us through our lens, viewpoints, and experiences of ThoughtWorkers. So I'm Cecil Dearborn, and I will be hosting some of these wonderful real talk sessions. And today we have Eugene Whatley. Eugene will be sharing his journey into tech through the lens of someone growing up in the inner city. So, hey, Eugene, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, Cecil? I'm feeling pretty good, anxious, excited, all of the above. But
You're the first one.
yeah, I know it's always pressure that comes with that, right? You gotta set the tone. But
yeah, it'll be rocky. Who cares?
Yeah, it's okay. Just think about it, reflect on it, want to be authentic. So I'm not too concerned.
That's all we can do. So before we get into all the questions and deep conversation, which should be kind of deep, tell us a little bit about Eugene.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start from now, and then we'll probably talk about my background later on. So Eugene Whatley, developer at ThoughtWorks. I've been at ThoughtWorks for about 5.5 years, a little over actually, which is crazy. All different types of domains and industries. Right now, I'm actually in the process of onboarding to another account, looking to stretch myself into a tech lead position. So definitely keep, support for me, please. But, just excited and ready to go. Okay. How you doing, Cecil?
I'm good. It's February, so February, especially in Chicago, it's and especially during this COVID, it's taking a toll. So, yeah, but absolutely. This is kind of exciting. So this at least gets my energy up. So I always get excited talking to you. So you know that you're one of my faves. So
I appreciate that.
So let's dive into actually the good stuff and maybe show other people why I like Eugene. Sure. So we have a lot to get through. So we've been asked to keep this under 20 minutes. I talk a lot. So thank God I'm not the one being interviewed.
I'll try to keep it short and sweet.
We'll see. So let's get this started. I know I told you to talk a little bit about who you are like today, but let's go back, since this is about focusing on your life and looking at things, through the lens of your journey. Let's talk about your background. Like, where did Eugene come from? Where did he grow up?
Yeah, definitely. So, born and raised Dayton, Ohio, the youngest of 3 children. So I'm the baby boy in the family. Dayton is I know we're calling this the inner city aspect of it. I just want to give a little context about Dayton, just for people not too familiar. It's a smaller, big city, medium-sized city, I would say. I think it's like in the top 75 metros by populace. But Dayton is was a big manufacturing location. That kind of kept the economy going, kept it rolling and everything. But then going towards the 70s up into the early 2000s, the economy took a big hit. Jobs were lost. Dayton kind of went down a little spiral. And the Dayton is an interesting place. It's like a tale of two cities, I would say, really. There's the one side of Dayton that, people may not be too familiar with, West Dayton. That's where I'm actually from. And then there's, the suburban areas and the nicer areas of Dayton as well, with, it's a lot of some medical opportunities out there, schools out that way and everything. But I'm actually from West Dayton. So, yeah.
So it's what we call the hood.
Yeah, basically, I don't want to, speak too negative about my city, but, it's definitely drugs going around, people trying to figure out ways to live, unfortunate poverty, a lot of, Section 8 homes and things of that nature. So it was a rougher area for some. For me, it was home, right? Like, I was blessed with a good family, supportive family. I'm not sure if it's like this in all inner cities, but for me, like, the church is like the staple. not to get too religious and whatnot, but it's really just something, it just helps you build a community of good people because there's so many distractions around and everything. So that's like the biggest thing I would say for me, myself, and my upbringing. It was just big on family. And then having a praying grandmother for sure helped.
I mean, I can, as we talked about, I can relate. My city was a little bit bigger than yours, but the same type of neighborhood. And I can say, at least where I grew up, yes, the church or churches, because there was a lot of them, definitely had an influence on those communities. So here you are, you growing up in Dayton, West Side, right?
The West Side,
sure I said that right.
Yes,
West Side. And here you are today, right, at ThoughtWorks and developer tech. Were you always interested in tech, or did you what was that about? Like when did you get that interest?
Yeah, it's an interesting journey, honestly. So prior to this, knowing that we were going to talk a little bit about my background, I wanted to make sure I got the real. So I called my mom. She's going to tell me everything straight up how it is. So talked to her. She just informed me when we were growing up, we had a computer in the household, and that computer came in around the age when I was like 10 or so. And she said that I was the one who actually taught my parents how to use the computer. Now, I'm not saying I probably wasn't doing much, probably just opening Microsoft Word or, some small stuff, playing what type of games on there, where you click the buttons. Yeah, Minesweeper, exactly. Yeah, and solitary, all those type of things. And I was just always on the computer. So that's, I think, how it initially started. But I didn't know I was going to be a developer. Like, I had no idea what programming was, coding was, anything like that, really, until I got to high school. But really in college was when I really saw it for the first time. But I mean, even with growing up, my mom was very active in my life. She was very active as far as, trying to make sure education was at the forefront. I'm a very tall person, actually, so there'll be oftentimes people just come up to me or in my mom and just ask, "Oh yeah, you big boy. What team you play for?" Mom like, he plays academics. So that was just something she would try to push forward. Just preaching, it's not all about what you can do with your physical. We have a mind as well. We're strong-minded people, so let's go ahead and just use our academia to put us in a new area. So that was some of the big things. So I always had advocates in school. Some teachers saw that I was gifted in the math area, so I had the opportunity and do things like Math Olympics. I don't know if people are familiar with that. It's not a big event, but it's a solid size event with select individuals, select students. But that journey kind of just went with me all the way through. I had the opportunity to do things like Wright Step, which actually gave me a full ride scholarship to school, which was actually for academics rather than athletics, which a lot of people are like, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. When people ask me, you're not playing sports, well, how are you going to pay for school? There's more than one way to skin a cat. So that was just something that was always kept at the forefront. And then when I got to high school, I did start playing basketball. Actually, I will be honest to say that. I was decent. I wasn't that good, but I was good enough. If I tried hard enough, I could have played at least JUCO at the next level. JUCO is junior college, for people not familiar. But it wasn't something I was passionate about. It wasn't something that I just saw, this is what I want to do with my life. But it gave me a lot of good insight, allowed me and me a lot of good people. It toughened me up for sure, because, now you're in a gym with high school boys and everything that comes with. People excited about the game of basketball. People a little more aggressive. It's a little more scrappy on the inner city basketball circuit than it is in other circuits as well. So, you just got to get tougher skin. And, my coach used to always preach mental toughness. So that was one of the things that carried me through for a long time. But also at the same time, I had the opportunity to be in the science fair. That was always pushed for me specifically, which was a good and bad thing. But I had the opportunity to go to state in science fair and also go to state in basketball. And my coach was very flexible, just knowing that I had the brains to be able to kind of leave practice for a good reason, basically. But that kind of set me up as far as high school is concerned. But still, there's no development, there's no programming, none of that involved. So my first day, I go to Wright State University for high school or for college, excuse me. And the first intro to Java class I take, they have like a simple if statement or for loop on the screen. And I'm just looking at this like, can anybody understand what this is? There's like a lot of typos on the screen. And I was clueless. And people and like the professors asking questions. And there's actually people in the classroom that knew the answers to the questions. And I'm just lost. Like, this is not at all where I belong. So that was just a new experience for me, honestly.
So as you get to that point, what are some of you get that sort of, okay, I found this thing I'm interested in, and now I'm in school and I'm gonna dive into this. What are some of the biggest challenges you had to overcome, like from just getting into it, and are some of those challenges even related to just your background and how you got to that? Like, I'm curious about like what are some of the challenges you had to overcome?
Oh yeah. Passing, I guess, is the biggest challenge, at least freshman year. And there weren't a lot of people that looked like me in the classrooms. So that was just being able to be willing to ask for help with people that may not look like me, or even just some of the occasional peers that I had in my major. A lot of people end up switching majors, unfortunately. But just being able to like ask for help, because that was something that I struggle with. And I sometimes struggle with that today, honestly. Asking for help is like something that I think is, for myself, when I just think about it, I don't want to look dumb in a situation. But you always hear the cliche, there's no such thing as a dumb question. But I really think there's some truth to that. So being able to own that was a huge thing. And community, like that helped me tremendously, because towards the later year of my college career is when I really started getting involved in organizations like NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers. People aren't familiar. And like now I'm in the group of people who look like me, people also going through the same type of struggles as far as engineering is concerned, people coming from similar backgrounds, and now people that I feel like I can relate to. And so we just built a support system, and actually, ironically, I met ThoughtWorks at a NSBE conference as well. I think you were actually there, Cecil.
I sure did. That's how we met.
But it was just awesome. Like, we just always had support for each other whenever somebody had an opportunity at an interview or something like that. So just having that support. And I feel like that's just something that was came throughout my whole life. Support from family, support from select teachers, support from NSBE. And then, entering the ThoughtWorks and finding the support in the AC program, what it once was. So it was just support for me.
So how has that, now that you're in tech and that you're interested, how, with your family and your friends that you knew since you were a kid, how did that impact you? Because I know, like for me, going into tech, I became the computer expert. Like I had to fix everybody's computer, but or I was that person no one just understood. It was almost like I just had this job that people just said computers and then they smiled. But like how how is that? Like how is that with your family? Like what about friends? Like how has that impacted your life? Like going into tech, from that perspective.
Everything you just said for family, 100%. Like, no matter where I go, if there's something, it could be the simplest thing with the computer. Eugene, come fix this, or something I have no clue about. And the first thing I say is just try to turn it off and turn it back on, and then we'll go from there. But it's just like, from trying to set up a Bluetooth connection to trying to print some papers, just a whole variety of issues. Family is, they'll look to me and ask me if I could help. Friends, I honestly feel like I had some very supportive friends. Like I mentioned earlier, there were definitely some that, thought athletics was the way to go and that was the way out. And I can see that, based on like what you see on TV and the media. And those are the people that typically look like you, are the people that are playing athletics or people that are in music or et cetera, or in the arts. But my friends who were in the engineering side of things, like they were very supportive because they understand. They're like, we want to be in these spaces. It's going to take some getting used to, but this is what our major is in. This is what we are setting out to be. These are the type of professionals we want to be. So, it's a mix, of course. Yeah. But family, I'm definitely the computer geek in the family when it comes to anything.
Tech support.
Yeah, first line support too, right?
So when you went in, and I ask you this question because I think about like things that my own personal experience, but I always feel like tech in its own self, like, I think there's these barriers or myths that a lot of people get afraid of going into because there's these myths or these things in their head, they're untruths, as some people would call them. What are some big myths or untruths you learned? Like once you finally got into it, that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I ever thought this. Like,
yeah.
You just look.
Yeah. There's a couple, honestly. Like one of them, it was you just get stuck behind your desk all day and that's all you do. Like it's just the only interaction you have is you and whatever IDE or notepad or random screen of 0 and 1s you're looking at all day. That was one myth that isn't really true. I mean, you definitely, part of the role is to code. So you're definitely going to be behind the computer doing that. But like through ThoughtWorks, I had the opportunity of building a global network. Like I met people I never thought I would meet before. I've been places I never thought I would go before. And I think that's just something you don't think is really possible with tech. I didn't really talk about this too much, but there's an Air Force base in Dayton as well. And my exposure to like anything engineering related was boring research, basically. Everything is straight up research. And that's just what I thought everything that it came to engineering and tech and all that was just straight research. Coming into ThoughtWorks, learning about agile practices and, working with a collaborative team and then building a global network, I think that broke a lot of myths that I had coming into it. So I think those are the big ones for me.
So before we wrap this up with my last quick question, I'm going to surprise you with one that we didn't even discuss in advance. But
oh man,
this whole thing is about looking at things through the lens of, right, and it's looking at through your experience. And we tried to focus on this, and someone who's coming from not a background of privilege, right, and not from a community where most of the people that look like you or like us, you looked at an industry that didn't have a lot of people at the time that looked like us. For those that are still in those communities or today or in those places today, what would the Eugene now say to the future Eugenes that are in those places?
There's actually a couple things I feel like I would say. One, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like if you don't know something, ask. There's a good chance a lot of people don't know. If you have interest in something, express your interest in what you have. Like you don't have to do something because it's the norm, right? You have the opportunity to do whatever you want to do with your life. Take a chance. This podcast for me, to be honest, is a chance for me. I never been on this type of platform. Going into tech was a chance for me. I didn't think that would really be where my career would go. But like live in the moment when you take that chance. Like you will meet a lot of awesome people. And actually nourish the relationships that you build. I know I'm going saying a lot of things right now, but it's just I feel like there's so much that you can tell to an up and coming person. You may be a product of your environment, but you're not stuck to everything that you've been through. Like you can break through that. It's tough. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but find advocates, find people who will fight for you. Like, that's the reason I feel like I made it this far. There were advocates for me in school that put me in like math Olympics, maybe do the science fair, told me about Nesby. And not only did it, like, they were there for me, but I listened. It's like, all right, you're going to tell me to do something. Now I actually have to do what you're telling me to do. It's one thing to have the blueprint, and it's another thing to implement it. So I just think like those are some of the things I would tell to the next Eugene in the line.
Well, if the next Eugene is listening, hopefully if the next Eugene is out there and sees this, hopefully they're listening.
Yeah.
Okay, so one simple, quick question, and then we'll have to say goodbye until next time. So, what's a favorite quote of yours that you would like, that you live by, that you'd like to just leave out for those people out there that's listening?
Yeah, I thought about this a lot. I think there's two that I want to throw out there. One of them came from my high school basketball coach. He said, to get somewhere you've never been, you have to do things you've never done. That probably wasn't originated from him, but it was just who I heard it from. And like, that's the reason I feel like I'm here today, to be honest. Like, I living in Charlotte, North Carolina, from Dayton, Ohio, lived in Dallas. Just, you have to, be willing to try something different. And you live with the results. Another one is, it's really just health as well. Like, and I'm not even just talking about physical health. It's all the aspects of health: your physical, your mental, your financial. If you're religious, your spiritual. Like, all of that matters. It's just who you are. It helps build your character, your brand, and everything. So I'm gonna say those two things are two things I think are things I live
That's
by.
cool. I'll give you two. I won't cut it out.
Sure. Yeah, I want to hear.
But I would love to keep this conversation going, but we run out of time. And if we don't keep things short and sweet, this audience will stop paying attention to us and tuning in. So, and I need an audience. So thanks again for sharing a little bit about your life experiences and journey with us, Eugene. It was greatly, I love to hear it. So, and for all of you out there, please keep a lookout for more video episodes. We have some exciting perspectives from fellow ThoughtWorkers coming out soon. And if you enjoyed this episode, please spread the word. So until next time, I leave you with this quote from William Hartnell: "As we learn about each other, so we learn about ourselves." So thank you all and have an awesome day. And thank you, Eugene.
Awesome. Thanks, Cecil.